Look at that. What's up, guys? New intro. Do you like that, Mike?
Yeah, I did, actually.
That wasn't really a full new intro.
Yeah, 'cause you stopped it and you're like, do you like it?
that was my favorite part of it. Mike, the next part of the intro is where you see no chair while I go get myself a tea. Do you want to come be friendly on the camera?
Oh, maybe I'll ASMR a voice in. I'm sick. Oh, it's too late. Never mind.
I am so fast at getting myself a tea. So, good afternoon or good evening to everybody, or good morning. I guess we have kind of an audience that is all around the world, don't we, Mike?
Yes. Worldwide. Coming at you live. Worldwide.
Yeah, well, we're coming at you from Japan, which is not worldwide.
Sure.
You can't really come at you live worldwide unless you're on an airplane at the time that you're streaming. Do you think that the internet on the airplanes would be strong enough to stream?
No. Unless you're on a private plane.
These are life goals, aren't they?
Sponsor us, Boeing?
No, we're looking for the BMW sponsorship.
Wait, I want to see the hat turn on the...
Don't forget.
Oh, I'm not live.
Oh, really?
No, we're live, but my one wasn't
Oh, okay.
buffered.
Okay, so welcome again to the live chat with Pacific Coast Auto. My name is Derek. I've got Mike here to the side. We are the brains and the brawn of the company here. So if you like brains, then and brawn, I guess we don't really have much of either of them. That's a weird thing to say, Mike. Why do you let me say these things? Remember, we talked about this. You're the guy that predicts every time I'm going to say something dumb and then wheels me back gently.
No,
You need
I
to-
like it.
Hi, Naoko. Good morning.
As you can tell. Morning now.
You need to be close enough that you can put your hand onto my leg underneath the table as the sign for when I'm going too far.
This is one of those times where I need to redirect you, right?
I basically want your hand on my leg, that's all. Alright, so back to what I was saying. It's Q&A. If you want to buy cars from Japan, then our service does that for you. And it can be complicated for some people, and so that's why we're here to give you a little bit more information. Answer your questions, talk about cars that are in Japan. I know a lot of people have a ton of questions about this, so go ahead and throw in your questions. And then we got Mike. Basically, it's me answering the question. Mike is my backup here for when there's silence or something funny needs to be added in. I guess a lot of people don't get to see too much of Mike, but he's way funnier than you think that he is. So if you meet him in person, you got to be like, hey, Mike, say something funny.
I'm going to run away.
You ever been in that situation where somebody hears something about you, whether it's like how you're funny or how you're really good at something? So they hear it about you before they met you, and then when they meet you, they tell you that, hey, I heard you're this.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you're expected to show them that?
Yeah.
I got that all the time as a teacher here in Japan. Like,
Oh, really?
Usually I was the teacher that the school wanted to use as the training teacher because they wanted my style, I guess, to spread. And so they would always say, look at Derek and do what he does. And then it would put me in a weird position where I'm like, you have no idea what I'm doing here just by looking at me.
Yeah.
So teaching in Japan is very difficult, and my heart goes out to anybody who does it and tries to do a good job with it, because there are a lot of foreigners here that really, really don't want to be teachers, and they're just kind of like, oh, I hate my job. But when I was a teacher, that wasn't the case. I've always really been into education, and so I always wanted to become a very good teacher. It's very, very difficult to become a good teacher, though.
Yeah.
And then there's not very much incentive to do so in Japan, because generally speaking, a teaching job in Japan doesn't pay you an awful lot of money. And your skill of teaching is not always connected directly with the performance or your pay. And so what that means is like a lot, for example, the schools usually won't pay extra for good teachers, and really good teaching isn't always appreciated because it takes a very long time to teach somebody. You need to be with the same student for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years before you get a good amount of knowledge of what's working with that specific student. So there are a lot of frustrations with that. I don't know why we're talking about teaching. I guess a lot of people who like Japan want to come here and end up as teachers.
That's true.
So it is interesting for people who want to do that.
And I think it's a good point saying that like a lot of people are just coming to Japan, and then some people are passionate about education. There's a pretty clear difference.
I think of all the teachers that I worked with, there were our school was pretty good at catching people that wanted to really make a difference in teaching, and then helping teachers that wanted to be like that. But I've really only met like 5 or so people who, in Japan, who really want to do a good job at teaching. Most of them are just like, I'm in Japan and I can be a teacher, and that's it. And
first question for you.
oh yeah, go ahead.
Are Honda step wagons better purchased from dealerships or at the auction in Japan?
How can we approach the answer to this one, Mike?
I would say...
I'll take a sip of tea.
Well, I'd say that for a step wagon being so common... Is that too hot?
No, it's an overreaction for the camera.
Oh, nice.
Go ahead.
Okay. Step wagons are so common that I would recommend purchasing at auction. Pricing is a pretty big deal. They're fairly easy to evaluate, I would say, for the inspectors. So I think you'd get a good idea of the condition and save yourself a lot on price.
Yep, probably save at least $1,000 getting one from auction instead of the dealer. And the rule of thumb for buying from dealer is that you really only want to buy from the dealer if the car is unique enough to qualify for it. So, for example, if you can't find a car at auction, like say you wanted to get an Audi Euro Quattro, the 80s car, you won't find that at auction except for maybe once a year or so. So if you want to buy one of those from Japan, it kind of has to be from the dealer. If it's a specific color or style or body kit or performance level, then you probably won't. You can't see it, but Mike's yawning right now.
No, my ears are like they're blocked. I'm trying to pop them. Yeah. Remember I said before? I went swimming yesterday and now my ears are
full of water?
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, so dealer purchases, we only do it about 1 to 2% of our full purchases. Most of the time it's because you can get the cars for cheaper at auction, and most people who buy are quite price sensitive about that. Plus, you never know what you're going to get with a dealer. Here at the auction, you get the completely unbiased auction sheet, whereas dealers have an incentive to not tell you the full condition of the car, and there's really nothing you can do about that.
Another question?
Yep.
Coming at you live, worldwide.
Worldwide, from the office in Japan. It is a relatively small and cluttered office.
I mean, everyone's watching us live worldwide, right?
That's right. I wonder what country everybody's in. If we have 25 people, I suspect we probably have at least 5 countries.
Ooh. When you sell a car and ship to the USA, do you do the title work or do they have to get it done?
So shipping the car to the USA, we'll handle everything to get it federally legal through one of our affiliates in the USA. You can import it yourself, but importing to the States is rather intentionally difficult, I suppose, and so there's a lot of paperwork involved. But we'll set you up with a dealer, or not a dealer, like a customs broker. It's going to handle the EPA and the DOT compliance for that, and then just like you bought any used car, you would register it like a used car there using the paperwork that we gave you. For the most part, there's really no difficulty at all. The only difference is that when you take it to like your DMV, the people at the DMV sometimes are just having a bad day, and when something comes across their desk and they don't know how to do it, they might just say no to you instead of actually look into it or actually learn their job. And so there is that little bit of complication. For the most part, it doesn't happen that much though. I think it's maybe, I don't know, maybe 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 people have a trouble with the DMV. And in that case, the best advice is probably just go to a different DMV. Once somebody in a point of authority says one thing, they really don't like to roll that back and admit that they were wrong. And so it's probably better just to go to a different DMV.
Or at the very least, get a different person at that DMV.
Even so, if you're like, hey, I want to talk to your supervisor, the conversation goes like this. Okay, I'll go get my supervisor. That person go to the back room and is like, hey, this ass. This person who is ASS space HOLE is giving me trouble. And then the supervisor comes out with already their biased opinion on you. Because there are a lot of people who treat the DMV staff really poorly as well. And that's part of the reason why they're so mean to people, is their job is full of, ASSHOLE people dealing with the people on the other side of the counter who are oftentimes distorted by that. Over years it just accumulates and it's like a lose-lose situation for everybody. Okay, so Mike's going to be writing down the questions for you. Please feel free to ask lots of questions. We'll get to any ones that we think are the best questions or any ones that we have time to get to. And for now, I'm just going to show you this car. It's this one that we brought up. Looks like it got a big ouch on the side here. The fender and the sill are both damaged. You can see here on the auction sheet there's a circle here for the damage. But that's pretty extreme, and it looks like the car probably has some frame damage that may prevent it from being registered. I don't know why I picked this one. I just took a look at the list of the Unos Roadster, which is the name of the Miata here in Japan, and there are 4 of them up for auction right now. And also, auctions are going to be a little bit slow this week compared to previous weeks, or any week throughout the year, because last week was a holiday week, hence no video, no weekly live stream. And because of that, most car dealers here in Japan are going to be closed during that time, which means they weren't making sales, which means they don't have cars to send to auction. So it might be like 60% or 50% auction sizes this week. And we got a lot of people who are ready to buy. We had lots of translations that needed to be done this morning. So it looks like everyone's eager to get buying, so you might see a little bit of a price spike this week. Not something I would really worry about, especially if you're going for something like a Miata that doesn't have an awful lot of competition. Also, dealers in Japan are going to be buying less, and so if it's a car that has a price dependent on Japanese market, you're probably not going to see much of a difference because the two will balance themselves out. This one also looks like it's not in the best of condition. Looks like pretty faded paint. I do really like this color. This one, to me, reminds me of the North American spec ones that I'm used to. A lot of this color seemed to be out there, at least when I was, I don't know. C2 here, bad corrosion. Yeah, bad condition. Don't want to look at it. What do you got? An NB here and another NA. Is it going to be good? Is it going to be good, Mike?
I hope so. I hope all Miatas are good.
I think these wheels are stock on this car. The BBS ones as either a dealer option or part of a package. This looks like it might be like one of the special versions, like only 500 made, comes with BBS wheels and Nardi steering wheel and stuff. And looking at the condition here, so this one's probably the best out of all of them. It's a 1800cc, so you'll pay more for the 1800. You get like an extra 15 horsepower over the 1600. BBS wheels, Nardi steering wheel, there you go. It is almost certainly the special version, even though the seller doesn't say that it is. And Mike, you're getting a phone call from Gaijins.
That might be logical. Yeah. We're safe.
Mike's staying with us.
I'm here.
Nice.
I have another question for you. Or would you like to check out this
I'll-
Miata in more detail?
I'll go to that question. I'm just going to go over the auction sheet here.
Cool.
And so body-wise, it looks to be not bad. I would give it probably a 7 out of 10, which for a car that's as old as this being a 1995, is pretty good body, but it does have some minor rust on the side sill here. And a C1 on the side sill is, for most cars that are this old, I would consider that not too bad, but everyone has their own kind of opinion of how much rust they can handle on a car. A lot of people don't realize how much damage can be on a car that is 25 years old. Maybe they don't have experience with a car that's that old, or just maybe their experience with 25-year-old cars was very high quality cars, and so they don't know that an average car of this age can be pretty beat up. This one above average even with the rust. So I'll just quickly go over this for anyone who's interested in knowing the condition of it. It says front inner panel has a small dent. That would be kind of accident damage, but this one hasn't been repaired. And so it was kind of a small bump that affected the frame. The inner panel is part of the frame. It's like right here underneath the hood. Underside surface rust. Dashboard is cracked, small crack in it. They tend to crack near the vent on this side is what I've seen. Steering wheel wear, shift knob wear. Carpet has a medium-sized cigarette burn. Seat has a medium stain and a medium amount of wear. door mirror scratched. Lowered vehicle, aftermarket stereo, and the center console lid is missing. There you go.
Probable weight saving.
Which for the Miata, I don't know how much weight saving is going to be worth it, because it already weighs less than 1,000 kilos here in Japan. The 1.8 is a little bit over 1,000 kilos. And so very lightweight car.
And very fun car too.
1989. You know what that is? That was when Taylor Swift was born.
Oh,
I think so.
really?
She has a CD called, the title is 1989. I figured that it was in reference to her year of birth.
I have to go bid.
That's a bid, Mike. What are we bidding on?
We're bidding on Land Cruiser.
Are you going to tell me the question?
The question was pricing for the GZ20 Sora.
Oh,
And he sent in a link to one as well.
did he?
It was lot number 60 at JU Fukushima.
All right, let's have a look. That's that would be what I consider a difficult car to price. Okay, so this car is kind of at the point in its life where it's starting to become more expensive. This tends to happen with different cars at different prices, depending on the availability of that car and the popularity over time. This one did get more expensive when it became US legal, but I believe that the reason for that was the desire to have cars that the US didn't have, not specifically love for the Sora. Here in Japan, the Sora is a big deal. It's for people who lived through the 80s and through the 90s. The Sora was some sort of a car that the general public knew the name enough to know that you got something pretty cool. Kind of in the same way that in America that people know the name Supra, generally. And speaking of Supra, it's kind of the same thing as the Supra, like the JZA70 Supra or the Mark III Supra. It's a two-door coupe, runs on the same chassis with same engines. Basically, everything other than the looks of it would be the same. And so this one was marketed as a higher-end sports car for the person who likes the finer things in life, I suppose. And it's a very cool car. And in my opinion, even though it's basically the same as the Supra, it has a cool factor that I don't think that the Supra Mark III grabbed onto as much as the Sora does. And maybe part of that is just me feeling like the vehicles that we can't have in Canada are a little bit more special, but I also really like the more subdued lines on it. I do like a good sports coupe, especially an 80s one. I love pop-up headlights, which is weird, but I think this car looks better than the Supra, even though the Supra of that generation has pop-up headlights. I do wonder what this car would look like if Toyota decided to do the pop-up headlights, which was very common at the time. Especially for Japanese brands. Kind of show their technological achievements. Cars with like auto spoilers on the front, pop-up headlights, adjustable suspension, Toyota's Thames system, which I believe was in this car, which is an early version of active suspension that would use like the speed of the car and the dynamics of the handling to pre-program the suspension to give you different rates of firmness and roll. Kind of a cool idea. In practice, I've never actually noticed a difference in it, but it was a big thing in marketing. You would see all over the cars with the Thames system that would say Thames on the shifter and Thames on the back. And as far as I know, that system is still used nowadays, but they don't market it as such. It's just part of what is universally known as traction control now. And so this one here is a 1989. The first question was, what was the price of it? And so when a car becomes this old, the price is dependent on quite a few different factors. And you look for which factors of the car stand out more than others. So for example, in this one, the car is a 1989, but if you look at the body, there's no damage on it. And so this gives me a question. Either the car has been repainted or the car has been kept in immaculately good condition. Now, according to the auction sheet here, which is likely correct but not guaranteed correct, it has had one panel repainted, which is this door. I feel like it's more than likely that this car has had a full repaint of the same color. The seller says it's an original white. You can actually check that out by putting the VIN number in here. And we'll do this just because this is a good example to show us a system that people don't really know about, even some of the more advanced buyers. So the VIN number in Japanese isn't the 17-digit number, so you can't be looking for that, but in general it follows the same pattern of having a chassis code, a hyphen, and then a set of numbers, either 6, 7, or 8 numbers afterwards, depending on the popularity of that model. And these would be serialized. For example, this one is the 84,000th version of this car. And then usually this number here, the one right after the hyphen, would be the model generation. So for most cars, not all, but for most cars they'll have like the early model will be a 0 here, the mid model would be a 1 here, the late model would be a 5, sometimes it would be a 9. It really depends. Like a Skyline R32 has 0 and then 5 for the later models, and I think they might have a 9 in there too for the final version. I don't know. Anyways, so you put in the VIN number there, press the find button, and this is the system is called the date of production calculator. And for many cars, not all of them, it'll show you the date of production. This one unfortunately doesn't have any information in the catalog. Just check to see that there's no typos, which there isn't. And so unfortunately we can't tell, but this will also tell you things like the original engine and the original color of the car. Did you just send an email, Mike?
We won. I did. Ayako would have received that.
Okay, I saw it pop up on the screen.
Yeah.
Cool! We won our first one back from holidays. Excellent. What did we win?
Land Cruiser 80.
Woo! So, going back to this one, I kind of went off topic there. I'm sorry for that. But I was saying that the things that make a condition of the car... Let me rephrase that. This is one of those times where you would cut this part out and you would replace it with something that sounds cool. Like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I wonder how many of them have things cut out. I've been paying attention to that, and all the podcasts I listen to, except for the Joe Rogan one, are shot live. Or are not shot live. The Joe Rogan one is live.
Yeah.
But, and then he's just good at not saying stupid things.
Yeah.
For the most part. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Let's see if we can rephrase this. Maybe I haven't had enough caffeine in order to get this right. So when a car gets to be this old, there are certain criteria that make the price change a lot. And those are, generally speaking, the exterior condition of how the car looks. The mileage is a huge factor on an older car. And then the overall condition of the interior and any mechanical defects. And then if any of these is outside of what would be considered the norm for the condition of that car, specifically, then that will affect the price quite heavily. So for example, as a Soarer, not a lot of these Soarers have bodies this well. That's a huge plus for this one. Not a lot of them have this low of mileage, 100,000 kilometers, and so that's a huge plus. And then it looks like not very many marks here, and so that's a huge plus. I'll just read over these. Steering wheel has a cover on it, where your scratch dents and paint wave. Full repaint on the body, so there's the answer to that. So full repaint on the body on this has conflicting things. The repaint lowers the value, but the fact that the body's really clean raises the value, and so they kind of fight each other. On a Soarer, original paint doesn't give a huge benefit in the same way it does to, say, a 911 or a Land Cruiser, or, you know, a car that is of the category of car that original paint gives it more of value. And so I would say that of the two balancing factors, the repaint lowers maybe 4 points, and the nice body raises it 6 points, and so an overall benefit to the value of the car. Looking over everything here, I would say that this is maybe in the top 5% of best condition Soarers for this generation. And this one here has the 2-liter 1G GTE. It's a twin turbo inline 6-cylinder. It's not a very good engine. So this car also came available with the 1J, which is known as being one of the coolest engines ever made, and the 1G is unfortunately a good amount worse than the 1J in terms of power and feeling and reliability, and so that depreciates the price a lot. You'll see a price difference of at least $2,000 between a 2J version of this car. I'm sorry, a 1J version of this car and the 1G version of this car, which this one is. So all said, I'd say that you're probably looking at about $1 million for this, and it may be up to like 1.6 or 1.8 million if it had a 1J in it, which is a much bigger difference than 200,000. But the reason why it's much bigger than that is because the exclusivity of the condition of this car is quite high. So if it has the high condition plus the better engine, you'll see a bigger difference in the price because of that. Mike, am I making sense?
Yep. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
I hope so. It's weird because the more I talk about things like this, the easier it is for me to get it out. But to be honest, I don't really talk about these sorts of things too often, except for on the video. Most of the time, I'm emailing this, which is a different part of my brain that's pulling the information from. So it's a lot easier to write an email about this than it is to speak live about it. It's difficult.
It's difficult information to convey as well, I think.
And
especially if you're only just looking at buying a vehicle from auction now, like just starting. People who have purchased a few vehicles will probably understand more.
Yeah. And your understanding of general like statistics and how statistics can compare to one another is very important. And unfortunately, it's not the type of information that is generally given to people throughout their education, right? Like statistics comes in university. They don't teach that in high school.
Unless you're in New Zealand high schools.
That's why I love New Zealanders.
And then you choose statistics over, what was the other one? Calculus, because it's easier.
Did you take statistics?
Yeah.
Really? So statistics, we learned it. It's a first level business class in university in Canada. And of all of the first level classes, it's the one with the highest dropout rate and the highest failure rate.
Oh,
is
really?
what the teacher said.
Oh.
And like in that class, like 40, because it's not a mandatory class, 40% of the people dropped out in the first, like at the midpoint.
Wow.
Crazy, hey?
Yeah.
And like when I took the class, everything just made sense. Like I was like, finally something that makes sense and is speaking to me in a clearer way to clear up the confusion in my mind. Right?
Yeah.
Like when we were learning about like macroeconomic trends and microeconomic trends and like I don't know, input some technical babble.
Yeah.
Everything just clicked, and I was like, yes, I found my people. And then everyone drops out, and I'm like, I have no friends anymore.
Yeah, never. I mean, gosh darn
it. Okay, so yeah, I think around $1 million. It probably will be a little bit above $1 million, but I don't think that it's worth that much. I think if you can get this for $1 million, you can be happy with it, even though you wish you got the 1J. And then prices for those. I guess the question to begin with was, what are the prices of those? You'll see average condition ones sell for between $400,000 and $600,000 usually, which means like $3,500 US to about $5,000 US, somewhere in there, plus costs of exporting.
The next question, I'm not sure. Someone was looking for a Prado 3-door diesel.
Yeah, the Prados came mostly in 5 doors or 6 doors because they have 2 doors on the back that open like that.
Right. I was.
Let's bring up a Prado here.
And there are not very many of them. I don't know. The 1K. They did come with the 1KZ engine. And 2 others.
And you're talking about 70 series, right?
Yes. No, I was talking about 90 series.
Okay.
Actually. I'm not sure about the 70 series.
Oh, what am I doing? Toyota Land Cruiser Prado. Okay, so 70 series Land Cruiser Prados are really rare. Let's see if I can bring one up, and then we'll talk about the 90 after.
I'll see if that.
When did the year change? 1994? Okay. Oh, this one looks hot. Oh, this is my ideal 70 series,
cool.
except for being a Prado. That's the right amount of lift and the right size of tires and a good look with the chrome and the black.
Yeah.
And so almost all of them are the 5-door version like this. So one, well, I call them the 5-door. They're kind of 6-door. 1, 2 on each side. That's 4, and then the back ones here. Really stupid design of having barnyard doors on the back compared to the 60 or 80 series, which are tailgates, because you can't put a larger size tire on the back because you need to open this door first. You could fabricate something up that sticks the tire off to the side if you want, a little bit. But usually if they have bigger tires, they just scrap the spare tire completely, which I don't know how I feel about. I wouldn't like that. And then a roof carrier. I guess you could put a large tire on a roof carrier, but the weight of a large tire up that high would be very difficult to take it down. And think about, like, you lend it to your wife or your daughter or your son, and you're like, here you go, and then they get a flat.
Yeah.
And then they're like, Dad, help me, I got a flat, and I can't get on the roof.
Nobody can help you.
Yeah. Then don't drive the Land Cruiser. You have a Camry at home. But Dad, the Land Cruiser's so cool.
Cool comes with responsibility.
And so there is a 3-door version with a shorter wheelbase, but for some reason they were very rare for the Prado. Not very rare for the regular version of the Land Cruiser 70. They were pretty easy to find. In fact, we found one. So here's what, this is the regular version of the Land Cruiser. It comes with a different front end and bigger engines. But that's what the 2-door looks like. This one has a removable hardtop, but it's not really removable unless you pay for the kit, and only like 2% of people originally paid for the kit. It's a little bit annoying. So take a look. The back doors, the same barnyard doors here, the versions that had the removable top had the same top. And of course you can remove the top on this one, but it's a little bit weird because these back doors go all the way up here. So the special kit version that was available from the dealers had doors that you could take apart. And right here at this line here, these top pieces of the doors were removable, which is very, very cool, but a very rare option. And you can tell the ones that have that option because the front has pads on the hood to fit the windshield. So you can see the windshield has hinges to run it windshieldless, or like fold down the windshield. But you need like little blocks for it to attach to. Otherwise it's just going to bang against your hood. Oh, this one comes with a factory winch. And this winch is mechanically driven off of a drive shaft from the engine. So you get as much power as you want from your winch. Actually, I believe, I don't know the technical side of it, but I would suspect that it has some sort of a clutch system, so you can't overdrive the winch and snap the cable. And then the later ones, 80 series, went to electric winch. Okay, and so now we're going to talk about the 90 series, right?
Yes.
Where are we here? Not there, not there. Okay, the 90 series I think started in 1996?
I believe you are correct.
We are looking at 70s again. Okay, so this version was out during the time that a lot of, at least the Tokyo area, banned diesels, and so this is when the gasoline engine ones became more popular. That said, most of these are diesels. There's gas here, there's a gas here, gas, diesel, gas, diesel, 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 diesel. And let's click on one that is not a USS one, but still has good pictures. Okay, so the 90 series Land Cruiser Prado. So 70 was available in regular Land Cruiser and Land Cruiser Prado. The 90 series was exclusive to the Prado. And these are great little SUVs, especially the value that you can pay for a gasoline one. Gasoline one's about $2,500. A diesel, unfortunately, is around $7,000, and so a lot more for the diesel ones. You get the cool. Well, there's two versions of the diesel. They're both the same engine. One's intercooled and one's not. And the intercooled one will give you more power for longer, I guess, and an extra 15 horsepower. Good size, 8-seaters. No, 7-seaters. And and just cool Toyota SUV. They don't have solid axles like the 70 series did, which is a shame. And they do come in a shortened version 2-door. I don't know exactly how many there are, but I feel like less than 5% or fewer than 5% are 2 doors.
Yeah, that's fair. Very low numbers.
And you can get these with the 5-speed manual, but they're very rare too. Japan doesn't really like their 5-speed manuals except for in sports cars. And anything that's not a sports car, it's very uncommon for a Japanese person to decide to buy the 5-speed over the auto. And so I'd say a 5-speed might be less than 5% as well. Maybe 1 or 2%. So if you wanted to get the short one with the 5-speed, I believe actually the short ones with the 5-speed is more ratio of 5 speeds to automatics than the long one, but it's still very hard to find. I think we bought one.
I don't know about that.
There's the story of the Prado. Let's have a quick look at this one.
Bye.
So 89,000 kilometers is rather low. This one here is a 3.4 liter gasoline engine. I believe it's the same engine that was available in like the Tacoma. What's the 3.4? Tacoma was a 2.7 gas and a 3.4 maybe? I don't know. But it's an engine I know you can get in North America, so parts won't be a problem. Of course, these aren't legal in USA yet. But the engine is nice and torquey, very, very reliable. A V6. Body looks to be pretty good. No marks here, and so that's a good sign. The windshield rock chip, interior dirty and wear, but then no extra marks on here. So just a good condition gasoline version with low mileage. Has seat heaters in it. Sunroof. Leather seats. Really? I did not know you can get leather on these. Not an option I would go for, but I think like it would help with resale. I think people like their leather seats.
Yeah.
I wonder if the leather on this would be kind of lower quality leather like the Pajero has. Because that's a lot of leather to put on all of these seats. Toyota's leather is good in the Celsior though. Maybe it's the same grade of leather as the Celsior. But this is a much cheaper car than the Celsior. I believe Celsiors were like 4 million yen, and I think these were like 2.3 million when they were new. Oh, Venom? Yeah, I do look sick with a mustache. Unfortunately, I'm the only one who thinks that I do. I don't know how many people know about this, but back like 10 years ago, there was this thing called Movember.
Oh,
do
do
they still do that?
New Zealand, yeah.
Yeah, and so the deal is in the month of November, you clean shave November 1st. And then you try to grow the coolest mustache by the end of that month. Yeah. And you're like, it's like a charity type thing, right? Yeah. And so I did that once, and if you look really deep in our Facebook, you can find a picture of me with my Movember mustache. It's killer. Yeah.
Did you style it too?
No, it's not long enough to style because I don't really grow facial hair that quickly.
Yeah, me neither.
But yeah, it's really good, especially for people who like the pedophile look. Which is okay to like the look and just not like the act, right?
Right. Yeah, I guess. If that's what you're into.
Hey, Daniel from Wasabi Cars is still here. You need to get back to work, make some money, and then fly up here so we can do a cheap car challenge. He says, if you compare even this channel's subscriber number compared to how many currently watching, I fear I'd be sweating on questions. I don't know the meaning of that. Do you understand?
No. Maybe that it would be difficult for him to get enough questions, or would have too many questions and couldn't answer them quickly enough, which is something we kind of struggle with. Mm-hmm. Like we want to get to everyone, but we also want to give good information. So
yeah, I think it's just that like our channel has like 60,000 subs and 35 people are watching. So out of the 60,000 people, only 35 are interested in this type of video. Yeah. But I don't know. Is that what you mean, Daniel? You need to come at me with the knowledge. And responding to a question. I don't know. I'm talking about something I don't know what I'm talking about. In terms of viewer numbers, of course I'd like to have more people view it, but I do understand that this is a niche type of thing. Like, not everybody just wants to sit there and listen to me or watch me talk about cars. It's the purpose of it is to give people knowledge about a system that we do. It's not really meant to be entertainment in the same way that other videos are that are going to be competing for eyeballs of people. And so we also have rather low view counts on our videos compared to the amount of subscribers for the same reason, even though I would argue that those videos are probably more entertaining to watch than this one, otherwise we would get more clicks on this one. Daniel O'Grady from Wasabi Cars, you need to give me a call someday so you can tell me what's going on. Sometimes I send you messages and stuff, but not very often, so definitely hit me up if you're in the area. Maybe go to like a car show, auto salon, get some footage there, and then we can also do something together. We can do some racing on a racetrack. We can go buy some old rusty cars, like completely terrible rusty cars from auction, and then go to a racetrack with them.
Break them on the track.
How fun would that be?
Whee! And then just be like, keep them. We're done.
Like a Subaru 360 and a Mighty Boy with rust holes in the floor. And then Wasabi Cars can be like, look man, I'm Wasabi Cars. Like, sabi means rust.
Yeah.
Have you seen his videos? He's
not very many. I mainly follow his Instagram.
Yeah, and the mullet's coming, RK. It is coming, I'm just not long enough yet. I really want to go out with a splash. I don't want to be, like, after I get the mullet, guaranteed within a few days, either my wife is going to make me cut it, or someone's going to kill me.
Yeah.
I'll grow a mustache at the same time, so I definitely look like a pedophile.
I feel like you look like a bit of a trucker at the moment.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I can work with that.
Only because of the hat. Like, if you take the hat off, it's like boy band fabulous.
Is it? It's
I
not
think so.
fabulous, it's just, it's not even boy band like.
I don't know.
I've reached the age in my life where I can stop caring about how I look, which is wonderful.
I did read that happens in your 30s.
I'm in my 30s.
Yeah.
In fact, my 30s are coming to a close.
Yeah. You've almost completed the transition from caring to the subtle art of no.
Who's Samet? Daniel O'Grady. Do you know who Samet is? He says, Samet is killing the YouTube game. He deserves his success. You know what I like? This Venom's comment got flagged. Oh, because he said pedo in it. All right. I don't think pedo. Did you mark it as okay?
I did, yeah. I didn't read the whole thing. I was like, that looks fine, and then yeah.
The mustache mullet combo make only ugly dudes look pedo. Okay.
I think you're saying you're fine.
But what if the idea is to look pedo? The look you gave me.
Was that a questioning?
You know, if you want people to leave you alone, there's a benefit in becoming uglier.
Right. I get that, yeah.
Like if you're so good looking, all the girls just keep coming at you.
I guess
and that can be annoying.
So, people are asking about the red bumper car on
Wasabi
Facebook.
Cars, you don't have to worry. I don't take very many things seriously, and so please don't worry about that. The only things I take seriously are important things. The red bumper cars? What?
On Facebook. The what car is it?
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's why Daniel's staying around. He's mentioned that right at the beginning. He says, I'm only here to find out what that car is.
Well, you have to stay tuned till the end to find out.
Yeah. Man, I hate that kind of stuff. I'll tell everyone now. So I posted oh geez, I'm not logged in. I don't even know my password to something to Facebook. I'll pull it up on my phone and I'll show the camera. So I posted, I was driving down the street yesterday to lunch, and then I saw kind of far away, so it's a bad picture, a really crazy modification on a car. And I was like, stop the car, I need to take a picture! But I was driving, and I was in the middle of the intersection, so I couldn't really stop the car. And it's something I have never seen before, which in this day and age is becoming something rare for me. Right, Mike? That was a subtle brag.
Yeah.
It's like, I basically know everything, and so nothing surprises me anymore. And
But
so,
when it does, it's a special day.
do you think we should give it a little bit of time?
Yes. I think people should go to the Facebook page and check out the picture.
And
then
post a
give us
comment
your-
and make sure that you like and share. And,
That was not the intention. I mean, like, so you can see the picture, and then what is it? Go over it in detail and then let us know what you think.
There it is.
That's it.
And so I'll give you a hint here. It is not a JZX 100. Obviously, something is wrong with it. And the key that somebody got was that the roof racks. Obviously, that car never came with roof rails like that.
Dun dun dun.
And so yeah.
Yeah.
If you think you know what it is, one person actually got it, and I'll show what it is now. It was a Stagia with the JZX 100 front end.
Ooh.
Which is really weird because most people who want to change the front end on a Stagia, they use the R34 front end because it's like, haha, I've got a Skyline station wagon, and they are both on a similar chassis with similar engines, and so it kind of works in that regard.
Stagia is such a good looking car.
Stagia with the JZX 100 front. And somebody else has done it.
Really?
I wonder if there's a kit for it.
Oh,
I doubt it. Like, how many of these kits would they sell? I know a couple of the companies make the GTR front end kits because that makes sense in a business model. But a kit to put a like,
it's not even the same manufacturer.
how do you do that? I mean, I can understand how it could be done, but how would you if you were to take on this challenge? Would you use the Stagia fenders on here? Because like if you take a look up here, that kind of looks like Stagia fender, and then just model them. But look, you've got like a sloping line there. Do you have that line on the regular version? You don't. So that sloping line looks like it comes from this car. It's a mystery. I love it when somebody does that to their car. It does something that is so outside of the norm and is difficult to do, but nobody is going to be able to tell except for people with special eyes. Like, in Japan, cars are not popular unless you're a nerd. It's just the fact of the matter. There are a lot of really into car people, but they are a fringe of society. The general person will not be able to tell that this car is anything strange at all. In fact, they might think that, oh, that's a BMW station wagon.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Headlights give it that kind of look.
And so the commitment to go all in on a difficult modification for a car that most people are not going to notice, to me is very appealing and deserves a lot of respect.
Yeah.
And 1964 Corvan LS swapped Nissan Skyline. I want LS swapped everything. I actually do. The LS is a wonderful engine, and haters are going to hate because you can get as much power as you want out of that engine. They think it's a cheap shot. And then there's all these excuses like, oh, Nissan needs a Nissan engine. That person is probably fine with a 1J in a Skyline, as is quite commonly done.
Yeah.
Or like, it's American in a Japanese car, not good.
Oh, yeah.
Or they say, that's not a double overhead cam engine. That's old technology. LS has cam and block. That's lame. No, you really can't say anything. If you put that engine into any car, you can make that car faster.
Yeah. If that's your opinion.
And you get
people do it for different.
You get to have that car and enjoy it, and enjoy the power band and the low end torque. Like if you have a 1,000 horsepower RB26 or like 1J or 2J, that's a terrible engine to drive. You know this, right? Like we've been talking about this a lot, and you've had a chance to drive some faster ones, right?
Yeah.
Like that Supra that we have in now, that's about the line at which I would be able to handle it.
Yeah.
It's fast, it gets the boost pretty good,
Yeah.
but if you put an LS in that, that's going to be way faster.
Yeah.
And a 1,000 horsepower
And more
LS, more drivable. You don't even have to think about it. You can just drive it like a regular car.
Yeah.
1,000 horsepower like a 1J or 2J, it feels like a 150 horsepower car until your boost comes in.
And then it feels
And then
like,
within a quarter of a second, it feels like a 1,000 horsepower car.
Yeah.
And then you're like 98% of the time you're driving around in a 150 horsepower car with the potential of going too fast in a split second.
Yeah.
And so it's very uncomfortable to drive something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, water-cooled performance, Mr. Brendan. I was looking at the VR6, which you have a high horsepower version of the VR6. Without head on.
He said the word is turbo lag. I don't know if he's talking about his VR6 or the Supra.
I don't know how the VR6 would
I love
be.
the results that you just got.
You see, I missed the 6, right?
All the eyes.
Okay, so a lot of people don't even think about this because they never really paid attention to it. But the VR6 is odd in that it has a single cylinder head for a 6-cylinder with offset cylinders, but not enough to be a complete V pattern. It's like 15 degrees off. You can see it staggered here like this, right? The the picture that we were looking at before was a little bit better. Where do we find that picture? And so take a look here. These ones here, I'm not 100%, but these look like they're the water galleys for the block. And so you get water in between each one of the cylinders, and then a decent amount of space between the cylinders that don't have water between them. And so this design looks like it adapts well to boosting because you can help cool the system better. And I wanted to know, Brendan, if you think that that was accurate of me to think that or not. It was just a whim that made me think about that. Mike and I were talking about it like a week ago, right?
Yeah. How do I do that? Yeah.
What a crazy design. They're like, oh, 2-cylinder heads is for losers. We need a single cylinder head. Well, we got 8 more minutes left, Mike. What do you want to do?
Should we answer some questions? Someone on the to segue over from the car that you posted on Facebook.
I want to complain about LSs a little bit more, about people's hate for LSs again, because Matthew Vizcaino says all the 16-year-old kids are going to get mad at you, lol. But I did rent. He goes on to say he rented a Camaro ZL1, and it does feel really good and gets good gas mileage. Why is it that people hate on it so much? It is so good.
Well, I mean, like the really popular things. That's what people hate, right? Because it's so common. It
has more hate than it has popularity, though.
Really?
It's like the thing. I think it's like a downward spiral of hate. Right?
People are jumping on the hate bandwagon.
Yeah. So they see people hate on the LS, and they're just getting into cars, and then they're like, oh, I guess car people hate on the LS, so I'm going to do it. And then the next person in line sees their post, and it just kind of spirals down from there. I think it's a cheap and easy power. Cheap and very good and easy power. And very good aftermarket.
I mean, it's hard to poke holes in something. It's pretty easy to just be like, it sucks, and I hate it, and you're killing everything.
I would like to have the smartest people on the I hate LS bandwagon to explain to me what the hate is all about and convince me. Because I'm sure that there are some things that I haven't thought about because this has just come to mind and I haven't put a lot of thought into it. But I don't think there's a rational argument for the hate, except for arguments that are more based on feelings.
Right, like the purist be like, no, this car should be kept original.
And some cars should be kept original.
Yeah.
Like at auction recently, there was the very first Porsche ever made, hand built.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't remember the name of it.
Yeah.
That's the kind of car you don't do an engine swap to. And there are mountains of other cars that you don't do engine swaps to. But like a Suzuki Jimny with an LS in it would be a rad car. And nobody's going to be like, oh, you're using up all the Jimnys. You need that 660cc half a liter engine in there for purist.
Keep it original.
Put an LS in it. An RX-7, put an LS in it.
Yeah.
In basically everything, an LS is going to improve it on a technical level. LS would be better than a GTR engine.
I know, but the GTRs are like kind of a famous car, right? Maybe they run out at a certain point.
No, I don't think so. There are mountains of those. There are so many of the R35 GTRs. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. No, R34. Like
okay,
R35.
R34 is on the line. Don't put like if you put an LS into the 34, you're treading on that line. You're possibly crossing that line of destroying something that's going to be of quite a bit of value in the future.
And then, so the R32, you would probably think it's okay because there's more, or are we still on the line?
This will change over time. In 40 years, it would be way less okay than it is now.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the difficult part, right? If you blow your RB26 and you're like, screw it, I'll put an LS in it. You can't go back unless you can find an RB26.
You could. It wouldn't be worth it to go back. Yeah.
I don't know. Are we playing
Which
the
side
long
are we on?
game,
Which
or
side are we on, Mike?
I don't know.
But I do understand that side of the argument, and I agree with it. And then there's a line, and the point at which the line is a blurry point, and I can understand that.
Yeah.
But this doesn't allow for it to be okay to hate on anyone who's done an LS swap.
I agree.
Even if you disagree and think that your line of where it's okay and where it's not okay is different from the other person. Like, I know a lot of people would be like, nope, a Skyline, there is no chance, you can never do that, or an RX-7 or an 8.6, or, I mean, they don't really do LSs and 8.6s because the chassis can't handle it.
Why not?
Because the 8.6 is made out of like, it's like you know the spaghetti bridges that people make. It's basically like the A86 is like a very high-end spaghetti bridge.
They're like, yeah, we'll use that. No, it's just a model. No, we're going to use it.
We'll use that, but instead of spaghetti, put metal.
Yeah. Same design.
That'd be so strong, man.
Yeah.
I think somebody said no engine build has a plastic head. I'm sure that there are engines, maybe not for automotive, that have had plastic heads. I know that somebody's made a working Lego engine that probably doesn't last very long, but you can't say there are no plastic
parts
heads.
are easily replaceable. Go into any 9-year-old's bedroom and you can get spare parts.
Yeah, an LS swap motocompo is one thing that wouldn't work simply because of technical limits. If you were to try to do that, there would be no room for the motocompo part.
I think it's quite funny that when we started talking about the LS, I feel like the chat blew up.
Yeah,
so
and look at this. 43 people are watching, which is pretty good for the very end of the video because we're only 2 minutes away from the end.
Yeah.
Usually it starts to fall off near the end, right? So we're just going to talk about the LS every time.
Yeah. Well, at the beginning of the video, we'll be like, later on, you're going to get your chance to weigh in on the LS debate.
I legitimately want to have a swapped LS here in Japan because there's a lot of technical knowledge on how to do it for a wide range of cars, and so I don't know anything about engine swaps, but I think I could probably figure it out given the knowledge that I have and all of the information on the internet into a simple car like a Miata, right?
Yeah.
And nobody in Japan has done it. So while in the States an LS swap is seen as kind of like a cheater's way to make the power, or people get jealous of you. Here in Japan, a typical Japanese car enthusiast would be like, wow, I've never seen anything like that, and you would get a much different reaction from them.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Like a 7-liter engine, and I mean the LSs are 5.7s, right? But they go up to 7, don't they? See, I don't know because I don't know American cars that well.
They started at 4 or something. No, is it not that low?
Well, a small block Chevy is what they're basically based off of.
Yeah.
And those were all 5.7s or 350s. I think that
4.8 to like 7 liter. It'd be a way different sound than I think people would be used to hearing too.
These ones are all 6 liters and 7 liters, but it's only from 2002 and on. Yeah, oh man, the sound of a V8 with an open exhaust and a Miata. Yeah. You know, Flying Miata has a V8. I think they use LSs for there.
Oh, you showed me that one. Someone said, can you LS swap the Honda City? That was from Meteora.
That would be a lot of work because you would need something that's rear-wheel drive. So in order to do it, you'd have to custom fab a lot. It would be possible on a technical level, but I'm not sure if it would be worth it. I think a city also is not really the right structure in order to do this for. You would have to fully cage it inside, and you would lose a... That's actually a good example of a car that you don't LS swap, because the city turbo is definitely in the only survivors are surviving now. Because you can't rebuild the engines anymore, You can't get engine parts. Like if your distributor goes, you can't get it. Everything has to be Jimmy fabbed back together. And if you were to engine swap, if you have one that the engine is running, then taking that engine out is really destroying a very small portion of the ones that are still surviving now.
Yeah.
If you have one with a blown engine, like we do,
then swap it.
and if I were to do a swap on that, I wouldn't go for one as powerful as an LS.
Someone said, what about a rear... Oh, same person, Meteor. What about a rear-engined LS Honda City?
I think your handling would be way too difficult to manage any benefits out of that.
I think you could lift the front wheels. With that much weight.
Mike, what did we say about these crazy ideas that you have?
Hey, Vin Diesel did it.
How much does a manual RB25 stage it cost?
That was one of the questions, yeah.
$2,000 to $4,000 US dollars plus costs. I feel like it would be really cool to have like a little screen in the top corner that says the average costs or like the exchange rate. Like every video we can put one up that shows the exchange rate and general costs to export. Of course, to every country it's a little bit different, but like the cost of shipping is within a window of like most countries are about $1,000 to $2,000 for shipping for most cars, right? And our service fee doesn't really change that much.
Yeah.
In general, we say that like a lot of countries, you take the car price and you add about $3,000 or $3,500 on, and that includes your cost of importing to your country for most countries.
Yeah. Oh, it's 12:02.
We're late. We're late to leave, everyone. That means that we're going to have to leave you. Goodbye, everybody. I'm going to look at LS swaps for a bit. Look at this, an NA with the LS.
Don't we have a scheduled phone call?
Oh shoot, we do. All right, cool. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks.
See you later, alligators.